All right, welcome back to the Speak Your Piece podcast. We're finally getting going after some technical difficulties. My name is Ian McNaughton, Big E. Pleased to be joined by SYP creator, basketball guy, good dude, Alex Fujimagari. Fuji, what's going on, big guy? How's it? How's it hanging?
It's hanging, man. It's hanging. How you, Biggie?
I'm good, thank you. But good to be potting. Good to be talking some hoops with you. That's what we're discussing. NBA, basketball. It's been a while since we've done a basketball pod, so I'm glad to have you on to discuss some basketball stuff. We got some draft stuff that we're going to talk about. We got some free agency stuff. We maybe going to talk some summer league. We'll do a little bit team by team. We'll discuss some teams. This is our second take at trying to discuss the Atlanta Hawks. Fuji, Atlanta, they traded for DeJounte Murray. They traded away Kevin Huerter. Thoughts on the Atlanta Hawks offseason so far?
I think it's been a pretty successful offseason. They got the guy they wanted in DeJounte. They got rid of a few picks, but DeJounte's a pretty young player anyways, 25 years old. It was pretty low asking price in my opinion. I thought DeJounte was going to be a bit of higher asking price from the Spurs, but they got the guy. I think he's going to be able to mainly unlock Trae Young, allow him to play off the ball, kind of a Stephen Curry, Golden State style play, as well as being able to unlock guys like John Collins, Clint Capella, just having two very good passers on the floor. Not everything's reliant on Trae to make plays. I think that was one issue with the Hawks is that Trae was kind of forced to be the entire offense at times, and it worked the year before. Guys were healthier, guys were playing better. This year, a bit more injuries. Kind of figured out Trae's style of play. So I think just being able to help Trae on offense and defense, DeJounte Murray, I think it's a huge pickup.
Because this team was weird last year. I thought it's kind of like you said. The trade thing worked 2 years ago. It didn't really quite work this season. Now they got a guy to help them. Probably the second. Probably are you? No, I think maybe the best player that Trae has played with, DeJounte Murray would be.
I would say so.
People are going to talk about the draft picks. It's a lot to get Murray, but you got him for 2 more years. He's only 25. You would think you would re-sign him when the time comes in 2 years from now. Where do we see the Hawks next year? Like, they're a playoff team. Are they a top 5 team in the East, do we think? Or are they probably in the 5 to 8 range?
I think they're probably in the 4 to 7 range.
4 to 7 range?
Never know how injuries are going to go. Maybe John Collins is injured again, or they make more moves, centering on John Collins or Clint Capella. Phoenix could be looking at acquiring John Collins and DeAndre in trade. You never know, but I think they have a lot of potential. Like, they're a pretty young team. It's just how consistent everyone's going to be and how well Trae will adjust and what the coaching staff will do to kind of get DeJounte and Trae going.
I would love to see them do an Ayton move. I think that'd be really cool. I don't know what that trade would look like. Like, I'm guessing it's maybe Collins or Capella going back the other way for Ayton.
But I'd like,
yeah. So I'd be interested to see how it goes. Mm-hmm. Boston Celtics coming off a finals appearance. Mm-hmm. They had a pretty good year, more or less. Maybe a year ahead of schedule, according to some. I don't know if this was the best Boston team that we've seen, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if this was the best version of that Celtics team. They acquired Malcolm Brogdon for essentially a 2023 first-round pick. The rest of the players involved in that deal, I don't know how you feel about Nick Stauskas, but
legend.
Yes. They got, Danilo Gallinari on a 2-year deal. He was in the the DeJounte Murray trade too, speaking of which. So, Gallinari's names are pretty big, pretty relevant here in the opening part. What are the Celtics missing anything, or do they just kind of go running back more or less with the team they had last year?
I think you're just running it back. You pretty much have all the same guys, but you improved at certain positions, like the point guard position. You improved at the forward position with Gallinari off the bench. It's probably going to be Marcus Smart getting pushed to the bench, um, or or maybe he won't be. Not sure how the lineup's going to look exactly, but they have a lot to play around now. You could have a guard lineup with Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon. You could have Derek White starting. You could kind of have Tatum or Brown play the four. I think the team's really versatile. They have a lot of ability to switch around positions. They just got more guys, more consistent guys, and I think they'll be much better than last year. I think.
I mean, looking at this team, it kind of feels like there's still like one. I don't want to say center, but at least another big man away from being like an elite team, like being another tier up. But I'm saying that as if they didn't just make the finals this past year and they could possibly still do it with the same roster.
Yeah, I think they put in a lot of trust in Al Horford. He definitely performed during the playoffs, especially in that last series in the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami. And even against the Bucks, he still proved that he's still got a lot left in the tank. I think the Celtics are good. Like, I think it's hard to find a really solid big man right now without giving up a ton.
Yeah.
Like, if they're trying to get Miles Turner, they'd probably have to give up somebody kind of key. But I like the Malcolm Brogdon pickup. They didn't have to give up very much, obviously, and I think he fits right into their system where same role Marcus Smart was doing to try and create plays, but Malcolm Brogdon's just a much better offensive player. He's better at driving and getting in the lane and finishing or passing. He's much better at shooting as well. He's able to like create his own shot. Marcus Smart definitely struggled with that and kind of hurt their offense at times, but yeah, I think this team will do quite well.
And I mean, Brogdon, again, he just has to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. Like, if he can just stay healthy, that's kind of been a knack on him in his career, but like, he can stay healthy,
I think I would blame the Pacers medical staff over.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. If he can stay healthy, and you assume he can, maybe asking 82 games is a lot of him, but if you're getting 70 games out of Malcolm Brogdon, I think you got a really good, top five, really good, 5 guys from the Celtics with kind of, again, however you want to go with Tatum, Brown, Brogdon, Smart, Horford, whoever. Like, you have a really good, rotation of 5 guys to put on the floor at any given time. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets. Mm-hmm. They're a fun team to talk about, right?
Yep.
There's Kyrie and KD drama. Mm-hmm. In terms of actual moves they made, they got Royce O'Neal for a first-round pick, which
I would have to say that is probably so far the worst trade I've seen in this.
Really?
I would say it definitely is. You went and got a veteran that doesn't shoot the ball very well. He's decent on defense. You could see in that playoff series versus the Warriors, like when they were losing, he was visibly upset, just running around like hurting people. I think that it just wasn't a very good move for the Nets. Like, it just doesn't, based on like Kyrie and KD and just having Ben Simmons, like, I felt like they just need to start rebuilding it, not looking to try and make things better and try and like play around Kyrie, KD, because you could move both of them very easily this offseason. I just feel like signing like a veteran that doesn't add a ton of value to your team isn't helpful.
So what you're saying is that it's poor asset management if you're Brooklyn, if you're trading a first-round pick for Royce O'Neal, and then you're using, I guess, cap space to get TJ Warren.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have been talking about how stacked next year's draft class is. Like, I can't really tell you names off the top of my head. Like Victor Wembanyama. I can't. I can see faces in my head. I know who it is. I just don't know who they are. Um, like the next year's draft class is so stacked that the Knicks didn't even use a first round pick this year. That is how stacked it is. And also the Spurs gave away DeJounte Murray for 3 first-round picks because the draft class is so stacked and they're trying to get specific people in the draft class. I just felt like giving up a first-round pick in a stacked draft class to acquire like a veteran that's on like an expiring or 2-year contract isn't very smart.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't know what Brooklyn does. I don't know what the move is for the Nets. I don't know if they just trade both Kyrie and Durant. The problem with both of those guys is that their markets are very limited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like Kyrie's is probably limited to about 3 or 4 teams, and about probably 2 teams would actually probably have beneficial trades for both. I think Kevin Durant's obviously much bigger market. People are willing to give up a lot for KD. It depends how much the Nets want to ask for. But we've seen the Nets make pretty good trades, I guess I would say. Like just being able to pick up players, even when after they did that whole like Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, like Deron Williams super team where they're all like 40 years old. After that, even without picks, because Boston owned all their picks, they're still able to build like a decent team. They had that D'Lo Dinwiddie team that went against the Sixers in the first round that one year, and that was without any real draft picks. It's just picking up young guys.
It's just good asset management. It's just using your
good
assets
asset
properly.
management, not Royce O'Neal asset management.
So, if you had to put a bet today, not that we're a betting company, but if you were to place a bet on somebody or something, would you place a bet on the Nets missing the playoffs or making the playoffs next year?
Definitely missing.
Okay.
I think unless they can get like a high impact player for Kyrie and KD and it works well, I think, and they have like a good pairing. I think it's going to be very tough to actually do anything about it. There's a lot of really competitive teams now, I think, in the NBA. I think you're either really competitive or you're not competitive at all. I think that's just kind of how it is. And I think if you're semi-competitive, you're probably like around a 10th seed or lower.
I should also note that Brooklyn re-signed Patty Mills and Nick Claxton. Just just to mention that they did other stuff. Charlotte Hornets probably not re-signing Miles Bridges.
Probably not.
Seems like they're letting Montrezl Harrell walk.
Mm-hmm.
They rehired Steve Clifford as head coach. Might trade Gordon Hayward. I don't know what else Charlotte's going to be doing here in the off season.
I don't know. There's definitely potential for things to happen. I think just building around LaMelo is obviously the best way to go about it. I don't know whether other teams have interest in Miles Bridges, but you could definitely do sign and trade option kind of things. I think definitely Gordon Hayward should probably be on the move. Terry Rozier is probably on the move. Just trying to get valuable young players or first round picks next year, even second round picks. Just to try and get players around LaMelo. Definitely try and look at DeAndre Ayton or Miles Turner this offseason.
I just this team could do anything, and I believe it. Like this team could like just go either all in, like try and go like their version of all in by trading for Miles Turner. I've heard maybe people are like, maybe they go for Westbrook. And it's just like
how much sense that makes though.
I don't know, but I would believe it. I also feel like they would be, trading Kelly Oubre and Gordon Hayward and just rebuilding whatever that is. And it's just like I don't know. I don't know what the Hornets. They definitely seem like the prototypical fringe team.
Yeah, definitely a fringe playoff team.
We don't need to talk about Charlotte anymore. That's more than enough talk about the Hornets. Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago's actually an interesting case study. They lost to Milwaukee in the first round last year.
Mm-hmm.
They re-signed Zach LaVine. They added Andre Drummond, who I actually think like Drummond could be. I now see him as like a JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard type, like as a guy who like puts in like 10 to 15 minutes in a game. He's valuable in the playoffs because he'll get you bucket or he'll get you boards, he'll get you some rebounds. He's a big man. He has an impact, but only for about 10 or 15 minutes, and you don't want him on the floor any more than that.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel with Drummond. And I kind of like the Bulls' attitude of just like, yeah, I think we'll run it back with LaVine, DeRozan, Vucevic. I kind of like what the Bulls are doing here. I don't know if it's going to win them a championship, but I like what they're doing.
Yeah, they'll definitely be better next season. Patrick Williams, hopefully healthy, and hopefully he'll understand his role and kind of contribute. It's kind of weird when you're kind of a tanking team, and the next year you come back, you get an injury, you come back later in the year, and you're trying to be a deep playoff team. I think Andre Drummond's really good pickup. Chicago Bulls were bottom in the league in offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. I think Andre Drummond will definitely help with that. I'm kind of sad that they didn't pick up any like shot blockers like Whiteside or JaVale McGee.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to have a second big man beside Andre Drummond or Vucevic, just because they do play that true five position, and they're not very mobile.
Yeah, and I mean, if you had to go with somebody, Drummond's. I don't want to say he's a better version of kind of what you're looking for, but I do know what you mean with a shot blocker, of like a dude who has that interior presence.
Yeah. We give him credit though. He has very quick hands, and he will get a lot of deflections. It's just that, it's not like you're protecting the paint super well. He is a big guy. Obviously, you don't want to like run into him, but you just don't have that like. You just don't have the ability to go up and swat shots.
I will say, I do like, some of their depth guy. I mean, Caruso's not really a depth guy, but I like Caruso in Chicago. Ayo Dosunmu.
Mm-hmm.
Did I botch that name?
I think you got it.
I think you got it. I like him coming out of Illinois. Mm-hmm. I thought he would make sense for whatever team. Kobe White, obviously. Like, I like him as, a nice depth piece as well. A guy who can replace either one of the guards. He can come in and replace a guard when needed. I kind of like where the Bulls are going here.
Yeah. I think if Lonzo's healthy during the playoffs, I think that'll make a world of difference for them next season.
And maybe don't play Milwaukee in the first round. Maybe don't play the Bucks. Let's go to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is another interesting team. Another interesting case. We're still waiting on Colin Sexton.
Mm-hmm.
Still waiting to see. Basically, is he returning to Cleveland? Is he not returning to Cleveland? Whatever. We're waiting on the Colin Sexton thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, otherwise, Darius Garland got a contract extension. Rubio, Robin Lopez signed for next year. Mm-hmm. For the most part, they're running it back. Like Evan Mobley had a really good year last year. Lauri Markkanen had a really good year last year. The Karis LeVert trade we talked about was kind of a low key deal that made sense for them at the time.
Yeah.
They got Jared Allen. I like this team. Even Kevin Love is still kicking it with the Cavs. Kevin Love is still around. I like the Cavs. I don't know if they're a championship team. I don't know. Again, they're kind of like Chicago. They're like 2 tiers below like the top teams. Like they're still good, but they're not there yet. Do we think Cleveland takes another step this year?
I think they will, just because they're such a young team. Like the core of their team is just like one of them's a rookie. Like Evan Mobley was a rookie. Going to year 2. Hopefully, he doesn't hit that sophomore slump. That's pretty common. I think most players actually don't have a sophomore slump. It's more that there's less media attention on them, unless they were like super good in the rookie season. But I think Evan Mobley will be super impactful anyways. Great, like all defensive team level player. I think honestly, in my opinion, he did get robbed of Rookie of the Year. I mean, it's pretty close between them, but I think Evan Mobley had the edge because I think he was contributing more on his team, in my opinion. I think Scotty is a bit more like flashy, to be able to do stuff more, kind of more versatile. But I think Evan Mobley was just better at what he did. That's my hot take, I guess.
Okay.
I think especially if they get Colin Sexton next year, I'm kind of interested on how their lineup will go then, because Colin Sexton missed that entire season, and you saw they had that lineup: Garland, LeVert, Markkanen. Markkanen missed some time, even though he was doing quite well, and then Mobley and Jared Allen. We'll see. Maybe LeVert gets pushed to the bench, or maybe they go with a smaller lineup. I wouldn't even say it's like a smaller lineup, just because you would be a little undersized with LeVert at the 3, but they have a lot of potential, like a lot of young guys, a lot of guys they can use. I think they'll improve because just at that end of the year, Jared Allen had the hand injury, I believe. Lauri Markkanen was kind of missing a lot of time. Obviously, no Colin Sexton. Hopefully, they still have him next year. I would also like to add that they did draft Evan Mobley's brother in the 2nd round, Isaiah Mobley. Huge pickup. Hopefully, he's just as good as Evan Mobley.
Huge, as in he's also a big man.
He is also a big guy.
This could be the first time that the Cavs win 50 games since the last LeBron year.
They did have their best record since their last LeBron-less year. So
we'll see. I like the Cavs. I like the Bulls. We're going to move it over to the West. This is an interesting team as well. The Dallas Mavericks. So the Mavericks traded for Christian Wood, lost Jalen Brunson, signed JaVale McGee. I like their pieces, but I feel like they could use just another scorer outside of Luka. What are your thoughts on the Mavericks?
I really like the Christian Wood move. I think he was kind of wasting a little bit of his time in Houston. I thought he was doing very well when he was there in that brief time with Harden. He seemed to be a great piece alongside him. Harden obviously wanted to go to Brooklyn instead, or the Sixers, but that just didn't happen. He didn't get to the Sixers first. He went to the Nets first. Eventually made his way to the Sixers, but Christian Wood, I think, he's super versatile, big man. He can shoot, he can score, he can put the ball on the floor. He can make enough reads just on his own, like just super versatile, skilled offensive player. And he's a good shot blocker. I think the one issue with Christian Wood is that maybe his defense wasn't, he wasn't always on it. I think that also happens if you're playing for, a lottery team in the Rockets. But, I'm hoping that with the chance to, win a lot more and have, like teammates like Luka Doncic on your team, or just have like a guy helping you, advising you, like JaVale McGee, legend, championship DNA. I think he'll probably be more invested on defense. And I hope he puts on some weight, because I can very easily imagine like a Dallas-Denver series where Nikola Jokic just bullies Christian Wood. Like Nikola Jokic usually has like 100 pounds on Christian Wood.
Yeah, it's a tough look. I mean, I think kind of to your point, Christian Wood, um, like things ran its course in Houston. Like it didn't work out the way he thought it was going to, just because Harden left. So it put Wood in this really awkward spot. But I mean, with Luka, anything's possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like anything's possible with the Mavs.
Yeah, they are definitely, in my opinion, still like one guy off, like another guard or just like a good forward, like Bradley Beal, if they could have afforded him. I don't know how that works now. Or even if they had just kept Jalen Brunson, I think they would have still been better. This is kind of how it goes, but I'm just kind of concerned with the Luka list minutes. Obviously, having Luka on the floor is, he's one of the best players in the game right now. But it's just like the Luka list minutes, like who is going to be making plays, who is going to kind of set teammates up. I don't really see them with a guard that has that much playmaking potential. Tim Hardaway Jr. is a good shot creator, but I don't know how he could make plays for his team.
It's really tough for myself to like get behind a team with like Reggie Bullock and Tim Hardaway Jr. as potential starters.
I don't think they'll start. I think the starting lineup will be Luka Doncic, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, and Christian Wood.
Also, shout out Davis Bertans.
Yes, he did get one of those famous cardio games in the playoffs.
Here's the thing. I liked Bertans when he was in San Antonio, like because he was, he was a really good value guy. It's like a dude who could just shoot threes, and he was on a cheap enough deal. And then Washington paid way too much for him, and so then it was like, okay, well now he's not really valuable. And then you also like you also ruined the one thing that he could do, and he could shoot. And like then he was like a 30% 3-point shooter. It's like, well, what the fuck are we doing here? Now he's in Dallas, and now he's getting paid still quite a bit to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it'll be useful. Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe it's just better in Texas than DC. Maybe it's the Texas heat that'll help.
Yep.
So Dallas, we touched on them. Denver Nuggets. Let's talk about the Nuggets. It's really, they're just, I think in my opinion, they really are just waiting for Jamal Murray to be back, right?
Yep. I think this is similar to like Golden State, where they're just waiting for their players to come back, and then they're going to be instantly contenders. Like the way Jokic is getting them like a middle seed on his own without two starters. There's two other highest paid players. And even Will Barton was missing a ton of time this year. So three of their starters missing out most this year, and Aaron Gordon being the only guy to kind of support him, even though he didn't really step up this year, which I was a bit disappointed about. But you're just waiting to be healthy, waiting for your time to shine.
Well, and you're waiting to be healthy, but you're also waiting on like a top 25, top 20 player in the league to get healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's also not easy because you can't really replace that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why they got KCP. Maybe they got KCP to
25 player.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, in my NBA top 5 right now, at number four, I have KCP when the game doesn't matter. When the team has a large lead, KCP is the best player in the
league. KCP garbage time.
Mm-hmm.
They got KCP and Ish Smith for Will Barton, Monte Morris. Sure. Okay.
Guard swap. I think KCP is better than both those guys, but
it's tough as a Lakers fan trying to talk myself into KCP, where it's like there's enough times where like how do I put this? for every one thing that KCP did right, or with one time that he's playing well, there was like 4 or 5 games when he wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, why can't you play like that one time more often? Why can't you be more consistent in that regard?
Yeah, man, he did get a ring. He did get a ring.
He did get a ring. Again, I don't know if there's a lot else to say about Denver. They're just waiting for Jamal.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like their pieces as well. Michael Porter Jr. is probably a solid bench option at this point. I don't know if he's going to be getting some starting time too.
I think he will be starting. I think just the value, like the ability, the shooting ability, shot making ability. I think Jokic just needed the strong shooters around him.
Didn't they also give Porter Jr. like the big extension as well? Like I feel like they kind of have to start him now based on that extension.
Yeah, I think he'll still he'll still be very impactful. Just you don't lose the shooting ability really. Like, and he's hard to guard. He's like 6'9", 6'10", and he can shoot. If he can come back and play defense as well, he'll be insanely impactful in the Nuggets.
All right. Here, another interesting team. This team, a lot of good vibes, I think, surrounding this team. The Detroit Pistons. Many people are saying they won the draft by getting Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. I like how their roster is with Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey. I don't mind a little bit of Bagley. Marvin Bagley in moderation. We like the. Do we like the Pistons? They're not a playoff team, but like the rebuild feels like it's in a good position. Like it seems like the Pistons are heading in the right direction here.
Yeah, I think they definitely got they got the guy they wanted in the draft. Obviously, Jaden Ivey. He put in his own little work to get there. He didn't give his medical or workout for the Kings, so he did.
Big respect. Big respect to the dude who doesn't want to play in Sacramento. I get you. I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, he saw how Tyrese Halliburton went down, so he knew. He already knew. No, I think Jaden Ivey is going to be really impactful. He's like a slashing guard, kind of point guard, shooting guard. His draft comparison with Russell Westbrook. He has that athleticism and that shot making ability, playmaking ability. I think he'll be really good with Cade. Cade's obviously got strong playmaking, passing, shooting ability. I think Jaden Ivey being able to drive and kick, or just Cade can find him. Cade can spread the floor for him as well. I think they'll be a good team in a couple years.
I mean, shout out the Canadians also on this team. You have Kelly Olynyk. You have Corey Joseph.
Yeah, this is the third Canadian team after the Raptors and the Pacers.
Also, college connection. Shout out Buddy Boeheim, Jim Boeheim's kid, who basically got a free ride through Syracuse, and now the kid's going to be trying to play NBA basketball with the Pistons, but instead he'll probably be playing for the G League team, you would think. Well done. We'll take a break here. We're going to discuss some more teams here, but we're going to take our first break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back here. Next team on the discussion list is the Golden State Warriors, who won a championship, won a title. By all accounts, are good. They got Jordan Poole back. They lost Gary Payton. They added Dante DiVincenzo. It's a weird team, not a weird team, but it's an interesting offseason. They have their core guys. They're just kind of more meddling with the depth guys, with the rotation players. This team is still they could still be in a hunt for the championship next year. No, you would think so.
I think so. They're still running it back, and they're still able to get. I think just having a dominant trio of Steph, Draymond, and Clay, and then being able having shuffled around, got like strong young players like Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins. I guess Andrew Wiggins isn't that young anymore, but being able to pick up guys like James Wiseman, Dante DiVincenzo, I think they have got potential to, obviously their player development's really good as well. So I think they'll be as good as they were last year. They're not losing anybody key to their team. They still got Kevon Looney. I think they'll just run it back.
Yeah, Wiseman, Kuminga, Poole.
Yeah, we'll see how the guys develop, and I'm sure they will develop as well.
Also part of one of my favorite nicknames, PTSD, to describe Curry, Thompson, Draymond, and Poole. PTSD. It's hilarious. I really like that one. I think that's probably one of my favorite. All right, from the top of the West to arguably the bottom of the West, the Houston Rockets, who have a bunch of guys on their team.
They do have guys on their team.
They have a bunch of dudes, is how I would describe Houston. I mean, Porter and Green, Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr.
Yeah.
That's not a bad, 1-2 guard combination.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you think Eric Gordon is in that. Point is, listen, they're also going through a rebuild. They have a lot going on in Houston. I'm not quite sure what to make of them this upcoming season. They took the kid from Auburn, right? Jalen? Jabari Smith, that's the kid. Because Banchero and then Chet went 1-2.
Mm.
They might not be good next year, but they might be entertaining at times.
Yeah, I think Jalen Green definitely had like a slow start to the season, just adjusting to kind of the physicality of the NBA. For somebody who does get a lot of points off driving and trying to get into the paint, I think just being like a smaller kind of 6'4" guard, it is kind of tough to adjust to the NBA if you're not Russell Westbrook level athleticism or Derrick Rose level athleticism when you come into the NBA. But I think Jalen Green will have a better year this year than he did last year. He did actually play so well in the second half of the season that they snubbed Josh Giddey and put him on the All Rookie team, first team. And Josh Giddey didn't even make an All Rookie team. It's something I'm also mad about. But I just think like the voters just don't like TikTok. That's what it comes down to.
The Bill Simmons types just haven't figured out TikTok yet. The voters.
Yeah, if they saw more Josh Giddey TikToks, I think they would have voted for him. I think he just got his TikTok following.
Again, I don't know that they're going to be good next year, but Houston does have some pieces that could be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think
will be interesting.
Yeah, picking up Jabari Smith, I think, is probably the correct option. I didn't really look at the prospects this year. Like, I know Jabari Smith is like quite a good shooter. He was kind of hovering around the 40% from three mark at 6'10". Kind of ideal getting a flex forward that can shoot the ball, good on defense. It's kind of the NBA meta right now, getting tall guys who can shoot. I think that'll work out really well. So just spreading the floor for Jalen Green and Kevin Porter, being able to, having more ISO plays. We'll see how Jabari Smith develops, because having a strong defensive guy on the Rockets would definitely help.
And, with Houston, there's not really any pressure to be good. They just I think if you're a Rockets fan, obviously you're disappointed with how things ended with Harden and Paul and all that. But at the same time, now it's like, hey, we have like 3, 4 young players, 3.5 like young players who are like really fun to watch, and you can just enjoy seeing the development and growth from those guys.
Yeah.
And they, you're just, you're just happy to be around. You're just happy to, to be there. Speaking of teams rebuilding, Indiana. I like Indiana. I kind of like what they're doing.
Yeah.
You would think that Miles Turner is wrong. Well, Miles Turner and Buddy Hield are like the last two pieces that they're really cool parting with.
Mm-hmm.
They got Halliburton. They got some draft capital.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see somewhere that the Suns and Pacers were kind of locked in on that trade centering on like Ayton for Hield and Miles Turner. We'll see how that goes. Because not every report's true, or not everything pans out the way they want it. Maybe they can't reach like a full agreement. Like, hey, we think this is a cool deal. We're definitely interested, but we want this guy or we want this as well. You never know how those kind of work out.
And I mean, they got their own first round pick this upcoming year. They basically have Boston's first round pick. I mean, Boston, it is lottery protected, but you would think the Celtics are going to be good, so that pick's probably going to Indiana. The Cleveland pick is lottery protected, but you would think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to be good next year, so that one's probably going to Indiana. They're setting themselves up nicely depending on should they want to either rebuild or kind of like what you mentioned with Ayton. They could put in Ayton, right now, and I think they're probably a playoff team.
Yeah.
You would think. Or at the same time, they could also just go like way deep in the rebuild and just get more draft capital for Hield. Like you would think Hield and if Brogdon is getting a first round pick, probably Miles Turner and Hield are getting first. There's some GMs who would do that.
Yeah, I think if anything, there would be like a play-in kind of team. I think Tyrese Halliburton will continue to improve, and I think he will become a top point guard in the league. I think just rebuilding around him right now, him and I guess Chris Duarte. They picked up Jalen Smith, which is a nice pickup. It's a young center with like potential. They picked up Benedict Mathurin in the draft, 6'6" forward. You can insert him right away on the lineup. Efficient scorer, strong 3-point shooter. Just spacing the floor more for Halliburton. I'm kind of excited for Mathurin because he's a pretty smart player. Canadian guy. Shout out Canadian guys. He's quite he's very like quick player, like explosive, like a good athleticism. He made mostly plays like off the ball, I guess, in Arizona. He didn't really make too many shots for himself, but he was really good at playing off the ball. And I hope his ability to make plays, like shooting, pulling up, shooting, kind of just expanding his game a bit more. I think he'll be a really strong player.
Again, kind of like with Houston, with all these guys like Mathurin, Halliburton. Even if they decide to keep Miles Turner, Chris Duarte, like you said, there's not a lot of pressure. It feels like on Indiana, kind of like with Houston. Like nobody's expecting the world of the Pacers. Nobody's expecting them to go, win every night. People understand, or at least I think most reasonable people will understand that, they're rebuilding, they're trying to get better. They're trying to just add assets, but not really through free agency because it's really tough for them to get. People aren't going out of their way to go to Indianapolis usually, right? So for Indiana, you kind of have to build through the draft, and I feel like they're doing it the right way. But I also would understand if they are like, we're going to, kick this rebuild into high gear and we're going to go get, DeAndre Ayton. and we're just going to have our big center. And if they want to do like pick and roll with him and Halliburton or whatever, I could totally see it. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Indiana's a team where it's like, I feel good about them. I feel good with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Speaking about, I don't know if I feel good about this team actually. The LA Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team who is overrated, overhyped, haven't won jack shit ever. Correct me if I'm wrong. Stop me at any point if I'm wrong on the Clippers, and if you think I'm out of line in saying all this. This is a team that is probably going to get eliminated in the first or second round again. They're not going to make the finals, and it's going to be another disappointing year for Kawhi and Paul George. Those are my Clippers hot takes.
Okay. I'm really excited to see the 7 games that John Wall, Kawhi, and Paul George play. I am very excited. I love John Wall. I think having him and Paul George and Kawhi, it's pretty cool to see. Like if this was like 2016, I would be like, holy shit. But it's kind of cool that John Wall's able to get to like a contending team.
He's not on the Wizards. He's not on the Wizards, which is
not on the Wizards, and he's not on the Rockets, so it's a win. I think they actually do have a very good team. They're able to get a lot of like good players on their team. Just kind of their scout ability to trade and kind of scout out which players they want on their team. Like picking up Robert Covington, Norman Powell, Reggie Jackson, somebody that people thought was kind of like a questionable pickup, just somebody like just keep the bench warm. And he ended up being the starting point guard for the Clippers. Just worked his ass off, got better. Zubac. They have a lot of like strong players that are like very good at what they do. Like not necessarily they're not all like all-stars or like top tier players, but they all do what they do very well. And then they have Kawhi and Paul George, who just really have never been healthy together. The 1 year that they were both in the playoffs together was the bubble, and Paul George just had it. It's still like getting over injuries, and he had like mental issues in the bubble. Kawhi, that was the only time in the playoffs that Kawhi ever like choked.
The problem with that team is that, and I'm referring to that year, but I guess you could make the argument this has been like Clippers team since Paul George and Kawhi joined the Clippers. This team feels like the most entitled team, where it's like it feels like they play or they act like they've won championships, like they've won titles, and the only guy on this team who can reasonably do that is Kawhi. Because nobody else on this team has won shit. Actually, that's a lie. Norm's won a title.
True.
Didn't Norm win a title with Toronto?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Norm, you know what? Norm can like half act like that. Like Norm can just like sort of act cocky because he's Norman Powell. But Robert Covington and Marcus Morris have no business like acting like they won a championship before.
I think this team is actually going to be really good.
You know what? Let's make a bet. I think this team, like, how far do you think this team isn't winning 50 games this year?
Really? They're winning 60? No.
No, they're winning like 47, 48.
Okay.
I take the under on 50.
Take the under on 50? I think that's pretty safe. I'll take the over on 50 just because I like the Clippers. I like this team that they put together. It just depends on how healthy people are. Like, I think a lot of these players have struggled with injuries. I think altogether, like, this team would be very strong. And Tyronn Lue's been a great coach. He's been getting this team to the playoffs without its 2 best players, like Reggie Jackson as like the man.
That is true. I'll get you. You are right in that. The fact that Reggie like is like the guy they run the offense around. Well, like it works.
Reggie Jackson, and then they had half a season, probably like about like less than half a season of Norman Powell and like half a season of Robert Covington, and they're still managed to get to the play-in. Unfortunately, they didn't make the playoffs, but like they're just that close, even without their two best players. Paul George did come back for the play-in games, but it was like literally his first kind of games being played. I think John Wall will make a huge difference. I think Kawhi Leonard obviously makes a ginormous world of difference. I think they will do well.
There is part of me that is rooting for John Wall to do well, but not over Goggles King Reggie Jackson.
I think there's definitely potential for them to play alongside each other. Like I know right now, the reports are kind of in that they're kind of competing with each other in training camp for the point guard starting spot. But I just think the lineup's just so versatile, having like Kawhi and Paul George, similar to like Tatum and Brown, where you kind of flip flop from round 2 to 4. And they defend multiple positions. I think John Wall's 6'3", 6'4". He could definitely guard the 2 spot. They've got a lot of ways they can play around the lineups.
They'll figure it out. Speaking of teams that'll figure it out, the LA Lakers, our teams.
Would you like to go first?
No, you should go. I don't know where to start with this team.
Okay. Well, it's kind of hard to say what's going to happen because they are definitely shopping Westbrook. They're apparently not shopping AD, which would probably not allow them to do the AD Westbrook swap for Irving and Durant that everyone's so excited to see.
I've heard of Westbrook and AD for Durant and Simmons. I've seen that deal.
I think you need Kyrie in that deal. I think in any deal, any Lakers Nets deal right now, you need to get Kyrie.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think Kyrie's the way to go. I think just having a guy that is willing to play and contribute LeBron on his team. LeBron will definitely hold him accountable, and I don't think Kyrie will be pissed off as much. He'll definitely take time off. He'll definitely have his paid vacation time, but it's kind of hard to see what the Lakers are going to do. I think Darvin Ham has been talking about how excited he is to have Russell Westbrook in his system. Whatever his system seems to be. I'm not fully aware of it. I'm hoping that he does use Westbrook a lot more than last year. I think realistically, even though LeBron is LeBron, he should be playing off the ball to Westbrook. I just think like the dynamic of Westbrook being off the ball versus LeBron being off the ball. I think LeBron off the ball is way more impactful. And I think it was just weird for Vogel to kind of do that. I think he's been playing through LeBron for a few years now, and just didn't really know how to utilize Westbrook. I think just having a coaching difference just makes this team better already. And getting like a viable option at center this year with Thomas Bryant, I think it'll make a difference.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I saw too many Westbrook bricks of him just either airballing it or just hitting off the side of the backboard. And it's just like, yeah, this isn't working. This isn't fun. Not enjoying this. And I think there's enough teams out there who would take a run at him. Mm-hmm. Like, even after this year with LA, if LA decided to get rid of him, I think there's, you could convince the Knicks or the Hornets to like try and get Westbrook if you wanted to go that way. For a while there, I was also on the mindset of like, you could just trade LeBron. You could trade AD. You could really just, blow this up and really rebuild. And then it's like, you know what? If you're not going to be good, at least be chaotic. At least be entertaining. And I think the Lakers, I don't know how good they're going to be next year. Everybody's a year older. I don't know how healthy AD is going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know about Westbrook. No idea how that's gonna work. Oh, I hope it works well in Ham system.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
I think we'll see who comes back as well. There are a lot of veterans that are free agents right now. I think the way they've been picking up players like Lonnie Walker, Troy Brown, even like last year they picked up Kendrick Nunn. Draft they got Austin Reeves on the team. Just picking up young guys that can definitely contribute and have a role on the team has definitely been the way to go. Like you saw, like Stanley Johnson, kind of just picked him up just to pick him up, and he had an immediate impact on the team. I think just having younger guys that you can kind of in the organization think, like we can actually use this guy and develop this guy instead of last year's approach where you kind of just get as many veterans as you can. I think just having younger players, they're going to like hustle. They're going to the reason you would get veterans is that they don't make mistakes that young players would make. And just have like kind of leadership as well. But there was just no veterans on this team that wanted to go out and play defense, kind of be that guy outside of like Dwight Howard. But like they just picked up a lot of veterans that never really played defense. Like I think Melo was good. He just didn't contribute on the defensive end. DJ Augustine, like Kent Bazemore, like these guys did not contribute. Wayne Ellington did not contribute on defense in the slightest.
No, no, some of those guys didn't give a shit. But maybe with younger guys, you have younger guys who do give a shit, want to win. That includes maybe Kendrick Nunn back, maybe THT.
Yeah. Yo, shout out Juan Toscano Anderson, dude. He pulled up to the Lakers Summer League game with the Kobe jersey. Just respect, man.
You love to see it.
To see it.
Are the Lakers going to be good next year? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, talent-wise, it's tough for me to see them being better than the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think they will be good. We'll see how they look kind of after the trade deadline, I guess. That's kind of when you probably want to revisit them. There's still lots of questions about Westbrook's future there, kind of who they'll be rolling with heading into playoffs. And you never know, like maybe some of these younger guys like Troy Brown, JTA, Lonnie Walker, maybe they'll have a much larger role than we thought.
I do want to say I was a Lonnie Walker guy when he was in San Antonio, so I'm happy to see him get the opportunity now. Mm-hmm. Scotty Pippen Jr. Do we think he's got a chance with the Lakers?
Nice in summer league. He's on a 2-way contract right now. We'll see how much time he's up. He did look like he's very good off the dribble, good at finishing, just making plays for himself. We'll see how that he can play, in an NBA game versus a summer league game. He's kind of been like around 14, 15 points per game, like 50% from the field. I think he'll take time definitely to develop. Max Christie hasn't been super impactful. I kind of see like why they picked him up. There's definitely a ton of talent there. I've been really excited about Cole Swider actually. I saw on his draft report, he didn't get drafted, but he was definitely a sharpshooter, and he's been a sharpshooter. He's shooting like 65% plus from 3 this summer league on like nearly 7 attempts per game. I think he will actually have an impact on the Lakers roster. And I think it would surprise me if he doesn't get a fully guaranteed contract this year or next year.
The young pieces I do like the young pieces. Speaking of young pieces, Memphis next team. Before we actually talk about the actual Grizzlies, I think Kenneth Lofton Jr. might be my new favorite player because of how much he resembles what I think I am on the basketball court.
Just a big guy.
Just a big, not the tallest guy, but the biggest guy. And he finds a way to put the ball in the hoop. Somehow, some way, he find a way to put the ball in the hoop.
He is a skilled guy. He reminds me of Zach Randolph, who also played for the Grizzlies.
Oh, hell yeah.
Kind of like undersized forward, but he's got all the moves, and he's just physically big enough to be able to body people in the paint. We saw him body Chet the other day, before Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic got to him, which I thought was funny. Been seeing all those memes about Chet getting destroyed by Joel Embiid or Jokic. Definitely exposed Chet's big weakness in being 7'1", 150 pounds. But yeah, outside of Kenneth Lofton Jr., I think the Grizzlies are looking pretty damn good.
So you got Ja, you got Desmond Bane, who had a really good year last year.
Yeah.
You got Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, all your core guys are coming back. They did have their kind of surprise off the bench. I can't think of his name now.
Brandon Clark.
Not Brandon Clark. It was somebody they just traded. They just traded him to the Sixers.
DeAnthony Melton.
Yeah, DeAnthony Melton. They actually, they traded him and got a first round pick essentially in next year's draft, and picked up Danny Green, which I thought was a good move.
I actually like Melton. I remember when he was when I was reading scouting reports on college players, when I was actually, really hardcore into it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they said about this DeAnthony Melton kid. I'm like, oh yeah, puts his head down and he just works, just grinds. Yeah. He doesn't want the attention. And it's like, yeah, that seems like a guy who's, going to do well. Yeah. No, Danny Green seems like a good depth piece from, from Memphis. Not a core guy and not quite a Grizzly type, if that makes sense. But you do acquire him because he can shoot the ball. Mm-hmm. And he can, provide some good minutes of shooting off the bench, which I think will help. Yeah. You got Tyus Jones as well. This team looks really good. And assuming, your young core of Morant, Bane, Brooks, Jaren Jackson are all taking steps next year. All those guys averaged 15 points or more per game last year. Assuming all those guys can take another step.
Yeah.
That's pretty good if you're Memphis.
Yeah. I think just having Danny Green there, even if he's not super key in the lineup, just having another veteran. I think what the Grizzlies lacked was just having veterans as well. Just people that can kind of have some leadership on the team. Danny Green will definitely provide that. I think obviously losing DeAnthony Melton, he was kind of on an expiring contract. You get a first round pick back for him, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it was still just a good way to not just let him walk. Because he was kind of a standout player this year on the Grizzlies. But I think the Grizzlies, they are in just a really good position where they're kind of similar to the Pacers or Rockets, where if you are even if you aren't succeeding a ton, still be happy. Obviously, they went a second round playoffs. They're just still such a young team, and they've already kind of figured it out in a way. I think they just keep improving every year.
They I don't want to jinx them and say I could see them coming out of the West next year. Mm-hmm. But man, if they play as well as they did this past year, I could see them coming out of the West. Yeah, I could see that happening. Any other final thoughts on Memphis here?
Glad they re-signed Tyus Jones. That was a big concern for me, not having Tyus Jones in the roster next year. We saw their record. We saw them win games against Golden State in a playoff series without John Morant due to Tyus Jones being able to fill that role. I think he really does unlock this team a bit more. Just the only issue I have is that he does play the same position as Ja, takes away the ball from Ja a bit. So that's kind of why they don't really mesh together in a way. But he's just so good at just being efficient with his passes and not just taking care of the ball. Like he's one of the players with the lowest amount of turnovers, in the league, and just his assist to, I guess his pass to assist ratio, meaning like how many of his passes results in baskets, is just super high. He's just such an efficient passer. And this team had a lot of talent, and a lot of guys who can make shots. That just having Tyus Jones on the roster just makes their team a lot better, even though he's not even a starting player.
Again, depth is so important, especially when you get into the playoffs, right? Like you need to have like those 6th and 7th, 8th men who can be important to your success. Let's talk about Miami here for a bit. Again, it looks like I mostly running it back.
Yeah,
are the Heat. You got Kyle Lowry, you got Tyler Hero, you got Jimmy Butler, Victor Oladipo, Bam, Duncan Robinson. Team looks good. I could see them going to the finals next year. If they can put it all together, if they can make it work and play like a team.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the Heat?
Yeah, we did see kind of like the issues with their team in the last series. Jimmy Butler was able to kind of carry games as Jimmy normally does in the playoffs. I think just in that last series, obviously the weaknesses kind of came out. Tyler Hero's inconsistency, Kyle Lowry kind of not meshing into the team at times. Just some of the guys just being like Max Strus, Tyler Hero just being inconsistent. Bam not really being aggressive. We saw like the issues they have, but I think they will run it back probably unless they can somehow land Durant. I mean, they would still run it back, try and get to the finals again. It just depends. I don't think that Miami is actually a realistic landing spot for Durant, but we'll see. I think the team definitely has a lot of potential. It's just kind of how do they fix the issues that they had last year? Do they have to get new guys? Do they, can they just fix it with coaching? We'll have to see.
It's funny because if you look at that roster and you look at that collection of individuals, you'd think, oh yeah, like most GMs would want that. Most GMs would want like Kyle Lowry, Oladipo, Hero, Robinson, Bam, like Jimmy Butler, all those guys. Like the talent's there, talent's in the room. They just have to figure it out.
Yeah.
They were in the finals 2020 in the bubble, and I think part of us then were like, yeah, this might be the peak Miami. Like this might be the best we see out of the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
But I also kind of think like they could win a title if they just, get it together for 4 rounds. It wouldn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm kind of with you. I don't think Durant would go to Miami. I don't see it. Mm-hmm. But stranger things have happened. Who knows? The Heat could be a really fun team again next year. They could finish first in the East once again, and it wouldn't be all that surprising to myself.
Yeah.
We're gonna take another break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Don't miss out. Don't go anywhere. There it is. All right. Discuss Miami. Let's discuss Milwaukee, the Bucks, who, in all honesty, probably should have got to the finals last year in the Eastern Conference if it wasn't for the Middleton injury.
Mm-hmm. I think they'll pretty much have the same team next year. same core of players. They'll still be a contending team. I don't think much. I think you can just kind of have this year as a write-off, to be honest. Grayson Allen did play quite well this year. Probably exceeded most people's expectations. Just not having Melton is just a bit huge.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that they trade or somehow get rid of George Hill. I think George Hill's a cursed player. I think you can't win with George Hill. Nothing against George Hill. It's just like I think there's some kind of curse there.
It's the ghost of something. Wherever George Hill goes, something follows him. That's bad juju.
Yep. Joe Ingles pickup's nice. A guy who can shoot and kind of help make plays, help set the ball up and get the ball to the right places. I don't think there's much to say.
Pat Connaughton.
Yeah.
No, I'm kind of with you. Like, they're a championship team. Like, they are good enough to run it back. They have all the pieces. They look really good. I mean, whatever you want to say about Milwaukee, you can say about them. They're just that good.
Yeah.
All right. Minnesota. Let's talk about the Gobert trade. Let's talk about this.
Not actually a bad trade.
No, stop. You're the second person to tell me this. No, this trade sucks. This trade is awful.
Okay. You can go first.
So here, let me just. So, for those who don't know, I'm gonna pull this up. All that was involved here, because God, I hated this trade. Like, when I first heard it, as someone who, like, pre-COVID said, "Oh yeah, Rudy Gobert is overrated." I can replace Rudy Gobert. So Minnesota received Rudy Gobert. The Jazz received Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Balmero, Walker Kessler, who is the number 22 pick in this year's draft, Jared Vanderbilt, 5 more or less roster players, a 2023 first-round pick, a 2025 first-round pick, a 2026 pick swap, a 2027 first-round pick, and a 2029 first-round pick. Essentially, 5 first-round picks and 5 roster players for Rudy fucking Gobert.
Yeah, buddy.
God, that's a lot for a guy who, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he's in his 30s now.
I don't know if he's that old. He is 30, actually, yeah.
30. He's been declining for like the last, I don't know, couple years. He has 4 years and $170 million left. I mean, I get that, Utah had to get rid of this guy. Minnesota had most of the leverage, I would say, in this situation. Minnesota had most of the leverage because they knew that Utah had to get rid of either Gobert or Mitchell. And maybe they get rid of Mitchell too. Who knows? But God damn it. 4 first-round picks and a pick swap for Rudy Gobert, who is not even the best player on your team?
I think Rudy does help the Wolves in things that they were bad at. He helps in rebounding. He's very good at helping block shots. He has a ginormous defensive impact. And I think it will make up for things like Cat not being a real defensive presence. It'll help with Anthony Edwards reaching a bit to try and get steals a bit too often. It will cover a lot of the defensive lapses that the Wolves had, because they're not bad at like closing out and stuff. It's just I mean, they are kind of bad at closing out, like just trying to like, because like they just try for too many steals, and they're just not. I think Rudy Gobert really helps with interior defense, which something that they struggled with. Rebounding, he obviously helps a ton. Um, and they did want to move Cat to that 4 spot, but it's kind of hard to find like a strong center now for your starting lineup. Um, I just think that it was kind of harder to get Aiton versus Gobert. I think for Aiton, Phoenix wants somebody that will instantly contribute, not like just picks. Um, I think this team will probably be better than it was last year, just with the players. Anthony Edwards continue to develop. He's having a guy that's better on the role, somebody that makes Cat can play a role that he's probably going to be better at. I think just the one issue is just the payroll by Rudy and K Towns. I think it limits the role players who you can bring in for the rest of your roster, shape out the rest of your roster. Yeah, I think it's not as bad as people think, and we'll just have to see how it plays out.
I don't know, man. I just if it was me, if I was a GM, and maybe this is why I'm not a GM, I would be trading 5 roster players and 4 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert.
I think I agree with you.
And I get that, maybe there's some analytics who are, that favor Rudy. I just can't support this. I can't. I'm sorry. And listen, I like Anthony Edwards. I don't even mind D'Angelo Russell. Like, again, I don't even mind D'Lo. This team is not even I don't even think they're a top 5 team in the West. Maybe I'm wrong.
We don't really know how this is going to go with the Gobert Cat thing. It's a little experimental, putting Cat at the 4, seeing how that goes. They definitely have enough shooting to like have so Rudy Gobert can still impact the game. We'll see how I think the coaching staff will just have to see how they can work around Rudy Gobert's inability to shoot, and how he's going to clog up the lane on offense. But I don't think that should be a problem with their team.
I'll just say that's a pretty expensive price to do an experiment. But hey, watch Minnesota go make a title run and go make me look like an idiot, which is entirely possible.
We'll see.
New Orleans Pelicans. Are we? They made the playoffs last year. Like they had a little bit of a run. They challenged Phoenix a little bit last year.
Yeah.
I think we kind of like where New Orleans is going. The Zion thing is a bit of a weird situation, but I think for the most part, I like some of their pieces.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Pelicans?
I think the team works well. I think the CJ McCollum pickup was a little weird to people, like just having a team that's kind of trying to just develop, going to be good in a few years, and then just getting CJ was kind of weird. I don't think they gave up that much for CJ, to be honest. Like just giving up like mainly Josh Hart and a little bit of draft picks. No, I didn't think that was too bad. Obviously, CJ's been pretty good. Spread the floor, make plays for his teammates, put the ball on the hoop. So they just needed somebody else who could do that outside of Ingram. Ingram was hurt at the start of the year, so this team wasn't very good at the start of the year, obviously. They came back. Guys like Herbert Jones. Herbert Jones really like a huge surprise, I think. And so was Jose Alvarado. Just kind of the surprise players stepping up. Jonas was solid the whole year. I think they'll just improve. And I think they just had to kind of get Zion. Like, can you just give up Zion? Like, they probably looked at what other teams might want to give up for Zion. Obviously, the market probably wasn't there since he has low amount of games played in his career. But I think he will be able to have an immediate impact on his return, and it'll fit right into the lineup.
It'd be nice if Zion could get in because it would. You would think it would give them more scoring, which is I think what this team is missing is just the scoring. They did well defensively last year, but I think you're still just looking for that, another score. And CJ had 22 points last year. He averaged 22 points. Brandon Ingram 23 points. Jonas 18 points. If you can get Zion in, and Zion gets you 18 to 20 points, that would be a noticeable upgrade over somebody like Jackson Hayes. No offense to Jackson Hayes, who I think is a solid rotation player, but if you could get Zion in instead of Jackson Hayes, that would be a great improvement. Zion again, you mentioned I don't know what the trade market for him would be. I don't know what his value would be if you tried to get rid of him. I mean, I would love to see a team like, I don't know if you could do the Rudy Gobert price for Zion, but it's interesting. Like this team, I think is in a really good spot. I think they have some good pieces. And you mentioned Herb Jones. That's a dude I didn't even know existed until like the playoffs started.
Yeah.
And then he like actually was playing well in the postseason and was a useful piece for the Pelicans. It's just like, oh shit. Okay, sure. This works. Yeah. Playoff team next year or play-in team?
I think it depends on Zion and just how other teams do. I would say play-in team to be safe. It's kind of hard to kind of guess. I don't feel like that many West teams got worse. If anything, more of them are better now. The Clippers are better now. Denver's going to be healthier. Utah's going to drop out. San Antonio's going to drop out. I think they could easily get like an actual playoff spot this year if they play well and they have Ingram healthy for a full season. But you just don't know how Zion will fit in or if he'll play this year that much. I would say somewhere between 6 to 8.
Okay, I like that. I think that's fair. All right. The Knicks. Sell me on the Knicks. Can you make a case on the Knicks being possibly good next year?
Well,